I never wanted to study computer science. My mom practically forced me to study computer science. I wanted electrical engineering, and understanding the way the educational system is in Nigeria, you want a course, you don't get it. And the only one that came my way was computer science, and I took it with faith.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Africans in Diaspora. With me here, I have another friend, and I would like him to introduce himself. Can we meet you, please?
Hi, my name is Adeola, and I live here in Munich, in Germany. I work with critical infrastructure in Germany. Yes, and they're into payments and processing. So yes, that's pretty much a summary of me, actually.
All right. So how long have you been in Munich, Germany?
So this month will make it 8 months, actually. Yeah.
Okay. So what has your experiences been since? Oh, you did not actually say where you're actually from.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I'm from Nigeria, actually. I'm from Nigeria. Yes,
okay.
That's it,
so how has your experiences been so far? 8 months. It's a long time.
8 months. 8 months. 8 months. It's been good. It's been fine. I mean, first winter ever. Trust me, it's been deadly. The cold, having to adapt to the cold and everything. It's come from a hot country, to a very temperate country. Having to come here, it's been a rough time trying to adapt to the weather. The language has also been another problem, because pretty much everyone speaks German. So getting people to speak English. The first thing I usually do is, do you speak English before I go to a conversation?
Do you usually say that in German?
Oh no, I say that in English, please. Do you speak English? And so to be able to establish a baseline for our conversation, and if it's required, they get an English interpreter and then we talk. Yeah, but good part about it is my company makes it easy for us for the integration, as we have language classes for people like us. So yes, it's been about 6 months of language classes, and I've been catching on the language.
Okay, so can you say some words in German?
Basic standard greeting, guten Morgen, good Abend, heute. One a couple of words like that. That's the things I can say. So, right. I mean, please don't hold me for that. All right then.
Okay, so possibly in like a year or so you would...
Hopefully. Maybe a year I'll be able to speak English. Maybe, just maybe.
Okay.
Just maybe.
All right. So can you tell us a little background about yourself and just a little background about yourself? Yeah?
My life's quite funny anyway. So when people ask me about my background, I think back and I'm like, okay, well, like I'd always say, God has been faithful. I finished my degree at the age of 18. Most people never know, but it's quite interesting. Anyway, I finished from computer science from a leading university in Nigeria.
Okay.
Though it's a government school, it's not a private school. I regard people say leading university, they're probably a private school. No, I finished from a government school, a federal school at that matter. Yeah. So I never wanted to study computer science. My mom practically forced me to study computer science. I wanted electrical engineering, and understanding the way the educational system is in Nigeria, you want a course, you don't get it. And the only one that came my way was computer science, and I took it with faith. I still did jam in 200 level, hoping to switch. 200 level, yeah, because I really wanted to study electrical engineering. But as that didn't come out as expected, I had to face my studies properly. I mean, it was a narrow escape from third class. Very narrow escape from third class, because I didn't take school seriously. But it was quite good. And so I finished my university studies. I went to serve. Between the period of my service and getting a job, my mom just looked at me one day and said, "Okay, young man, you finished school. So what do you want to do with your life as regards computer science?"
Yeah.
And I always had a flair for the security space. I always had this flair for the security industry. I always had a flair for the defense. There are days when I'll sit down and like, hopefully one day I'll work in the CIA. Maybe my dream will come true one day. Yeah. So I told her, you know what, I'd like to do security. And then she told me, okay, you know what, go checklist of courses, certifications you can do. And then I think it was New Horizons at the time. Yeah. So I went through, checked through, and then I saw the CH. Then it was CH version 7, and she asked me how much the price was. I told her, called the company, and they said, well, I could split payments at the time. So I did first batch, and it was quite an interesting one for me. I would say was the building blocks for my career in security.
Okay.
Like, I'm currently a security engineer. I've done a lot of things in the security space, and it's been a good journey for me. So having to do that, I got my first certification, which was in 2013. Yeah. I started work August that year, 2013. However, I still didn't start with security.
Oh, interesting.
I started with e-business in the financial industry. I had fresh out of training school. distribution. So I fell into the e-business industry. I did that for about 2 years and 4 months before the space opened up in the security space, and I switched roles.
Okay.
And I'm grateful for the teachers I had. I had very good teachers, I had very good mentors, I had very good leaders. My group head was an amazing person, my team lead was an amazing person. He's currently in Canada right now. I mean, everybody's leaving, right? So it was quite fun. It was a good one, actually. And those were the basic foundations to my security space. I did that with that bank for about a year and a half, and then I got headhunted for another bank because of my skills in certain areas. And then I moved on to the other bank, which I did about a year and 4 months, and then I went into consulting for about 4 months, where I worked with a mentor of mine to build up a certain industry. But at the time, I already gotten a job with Germany, a current company where I work with, and so it was more of a transition period for me to just help out with a couple of things before relocating, and then it worked out well. Then I came to Germany, and that pretty much sums it all, actually.
Okay. So you actually talked about some certification, or one certification that you did, So can you shed more light on how you were able to build yourself? Because I believe that's not just one who have assisted you.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, that was the introductory part into that line. It was the introductory part into that area. I mean, over the years, I've had a couple of certifications. What I try to do is at least write 3 professional exams every year. Some I pass, some I fail, right? But like I would always say, certifications are not meant to boost your CV, not really. They are meant to be a show of your understanding of that aspect. So that's why I said I pass some, I fail some. So it's supposed to test and certify my knowledge in that space. And over the years, of course, you want to do certifications to show that you are an expert in a certain area. Security, for me, for example, is very broad. You have infrastructure security. You have, in fact, 2 major categories: offensive and defensive. I've been on the defensive side for all my life, so it's been an interesting series. It's been an interesting time for me.
So can you possibly list maybe like 1 or 2 or 3? Because the idea is actually to assist people who are looking at going into the space where you are. So some recommendation of what you feel nice to have or nice to know.
So if you're in the security space, most of the time I always tell people start with come to your S+. I started with CH, and it was one of the most difficult at the time, but if you can go through it, then awesome, perfect, right? But I always tell people start with S+, has to come to your S+, right? Looking through my experience back home and how I got the job here, honestly, I would say I'd paid my dues. Right? Paid my dues in the sense that I did a lot of hands-on work. I had teachers who were open to allow me to learn, who were open to allow me practice. I had teachers who were willing to guide me. So in this industry, I will always tell people, you know what, have a mentor. Having a mentor would help you go a long way in deciding what aspects you want to go in. I mean, I see people chat me up and say, you're doing well in security. I like to go into security space. What do I? And first question I ask them is, what interests you in security? If I know what interests in security, then I can advise you on lines of certifications. Like I said, there are 2 core parts: the offensive and the defensive. And in the defensive, there are different aspects, from infrastructure to core engineering to audit and compliance, regulatories, and the like. So you have to understand what it is you want to do, what aspect drives and tickles your fancy, right? So you don't just be a jack of all trades, a master of none. So there are a couple of certifications you can do down the line, but like I would say, please pick an area of specialty. Get someone who has strived in that space, who can help you, and then walk you through the whole growth process.
So now let's tune back to when you tried applying, or you applied to the job here in Germany. Good question. Can you tell us like what the process was like? So for example, someone who is into the security space in Africa and is looking forward to opportunities. So can you just state some of the things the person is actually going to go through?
It's not hard, I'll put it that way. Why? Everybody in life is always going to get one chance. So they would always say, I used to work in a company, I had an MD that said opportunities, right, would always come, right? But the question of how prepared are you? So like I said earlier, I had a good chance to develop myself, to grow my skills, right? So for this company where I work in fact, it was the second time I applied, it wasn't the first time. First time I applied was for a different role in the security space, and I went through the first interview. I didn't make it to the second stage, and I think I'd probably given up or something until a friend just said, "Hey, you know what? Try it again." And like 6 months after, I saw another job role which was called to my area of expertise. And then I applied, and I did the first interview. I had to travel down actually for the second stage. The whole visa processing was a bit hard. Trust me, it was a bit hard. But I mean, I got in, and then I came for the second stage of the interview, and God so good, God so faithful. I got the job, and then it was now time to relocate. We can understand the whole process of visa processing, having to wait, the long time, the long period, and everything. Yeah, it was quite a very long wait. And well, I'll say I was favored because just around when I was applying for my appointment was when the system changed, and then it became a queuing system. So I was one of the very first people that got appointments when the whole process changed. So I would say it can be quite hard. I waited for about 4 months to get my visa. Yeah, so I started processing in February, didn't get it until like June, things like that. So it might be quite difficult. But on the job now, I was questioned and I was interviewed based on my experience. And I had the desired skills that were needed for the job. And it was a good one. It was a good one. So like I said, I paid my dues. It might sound very vague, like people would say, but there are days where you sleep in the data center. I mean, I can remember the days where you do 72 hours straight, non-stop, because you had an issue you had to resolve, security related, right? Those are the days that built us up. Those are the days that built me up. Those are the days that helped me develop the skills which I've come to appreciate and use them on the job, and I'm still learning. So yes, those are. Just pay your dues and be dedicated to what you do. Eventually you learn.
All right, very good. So one question I will also like, it's more or less like seeking your own opinion.
Okay.
Would you state that professionals like yourself, you know, who have developed over the years, you know, should move out, go to
Good question. Good question.
Good move question. Out, or should remain in the country and continue developing the space, you know? Because if the good skills, you know, the good talents actually move out, who is going to, you know, develop the whole space here in Africa? So what's your own opinion about that?
So the good part about it is Germany is a country that appreciates talent, and they are open to people, right? The technology space is growing. It's really growing, I would say. Technology is really growing, and they need talents to really fill up this space, right? It's bad that Nigerians are having to leave, and honestly I can't blame them. When you look at the political instabilities, the issues around government, the insecurity, the instability, financial issues, and everything, looking at how poor the country is really dwindling into. Some would say it's doing well, some would say it's not doing well, depending on what part of this cake you sit on, right? Honestly, right? But that's the more reason why I see people relocate to Canada, because these are places that really appreciate this skill set. I mean, having to see my skill set back home in Nigeria, if I was probably negotiating based on then, I'd probably negotiating for something very low because I just needed to grow, right? But coming to an industry and a country that really appreciates your skill set, once you're able to prove that you know it, that's honestly, it's a good one. That's why you see people, for example, relocating to the likes of Canada, Germany. Companies in Germany are currently picking up people like easily. Once you can prove that you know the job and you apply, I mean, it's good. So, do people stay? Honestly, it's left to you. Do you think you can make an impact in Nigeria, or while in good stay? Do you think you can't, or you want to pursue your career? I mean, it's good, leave. But I would always advise people to at least look for a way to build the international exposure, right? It gives you a different perspective to how things are done. It gives you a different perspective to the industry, right? So, having to get the international exposure, even if for a year or two, even if you're a Nigerian lover, for example, and you want to stay back home and build Nigeria, please get that foreign experience. It changes the perspective. Okay,
very good. So the other question is, do you intend going back to Africa?
Honestly?
Yeah.
Honestly, no.
Honestly.
No. Honestly, no.
Okay.
I mean, I still got my family back in Nigeria, right? Yeah, but the honest truth about it, if I'm going to be realistic, is we have great Africans, we have great Nigerians, but we do not have an economy that's really going to support that growth. We don't have that economy yet. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now when things get better, oh yeah, I could consider. But for now, honestly, no, I don't think I'm ever going to go back to Nigeria.
Okay, so what advice would you give to people who are in Africa currently? You know, for some people, like I have asked other people who have interviewed, you know, for some people they have the drive, for some people they are building their skills, you know, and the opportunities are not available. yet. So what would you advise? Would you advise them to move out? It's more or less like the question I asked earlier. But would you advise them to move out or be hopeful and do the little they can do in the space they find themselves?
Let's be hopeful. Hopeful. All right. So honestly, right, I'd say build yourself. Whether back home in Nigeria, whether looking to leave Nigeria, please build yourself, right? There's always going to be opportunities to either take you out of Nigeria or keep you in Nigeria, but the basic is to build yourself. If you get a chance to leave, all well and good, please leave. If you get a chance to stay or you feel you want to stay, everyone knows what they're looking for, right? So I was looking for something. I mean, I always wanted to leave Nigeria. I always wanted to leave for Germany, for example, right? And then when the opportunity came, it was a good one, and I tapped into it and moved on. But I mean, I was prepared anyway, so.
Okay, so the second to the last question: what inspires you?
Inspires me in what sense?
Inspires you, that's wanting to become better at whatever you do. What inspires you?
Well. I've always wanted to grow. I've always wanted to learn. I've always wanted to impact, right? So my inspiration has been able to solve problems. Someone who's able to solve problems would always grow. People will say money. For me, solving problems will always give you money. Standard, right? Yeah. So looking for problems to solve that problem would always be my own inspiration.
Okay. Any final words?
Final words to everyone out there. Honestly, just keep doing what you do well, right? Get better, improve yourself. Right, I mean, opportunities can come either in Nigeria, outside of Nigeria, in the diaspora, locally, even within Africa, right?
Yeah.
But honestly, like I would always say, please always develop yourself, because in the end, you would always stand out. You would always stand out.
Okay, so like we have heard from Adeola, always develop yourself, because in the end, you will stand out. So thank you very much for joining us on this episode.
Thank you. It was good to have you.
Also, don't forget to subscribe and to like.
Please subscribe and like. I mean, we need the subscriptions.
And also share it with your friends and families. And to the next episode of Africans in Diaspora. See you guys later. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
What inspired?